voting? I'm good. Nathaniel, I'm the guy with all the cameras and the guy you complain to when I mispronounce your kid's name wrong on YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe this year. We've undertaken something pretty big. We've undertaken something called Post 17 TV, and we are attempting to stream every single Watertown Arrows baseball home game on YouTube this year. So make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm the guy that complains to you when it's not working right. Believe me, I'm probably swearing just as much as you are as you're trying to get it going. So there is a prize tonight for the shortest speech. I don't know what it is, but just keep that in mind. The prize for the shortest speech, see Ryan for that afterwards. I don't know what it is. So let's get things going tonight. So let's bring up the WBA board president, Mike Paulson.
All right. Well, I'm not going to lie. Even though I knew I was going to be doing this tonight, when you started talking there, Brent, when you said you were going to bring up the board president, in my head started clapping for Remmers. Because this was his job the last...
I was clapping that I didn't have to do it.
Congratulations. But in all seriousness here, on behalf of the Watertown Baseball Association, welcome to this year's Hall of Fame banquet. Tonight is a special event for our association. It's a chance to honor and celebrate the history of Watertown baseball. And in particular, tonight, we get to honor the teams, the players, and the contributors who have made a lasting impact on our program. To the families, friends, supporters, and the many sponsors that are here tonight, thank you for being here. The Watertown community is truly remarkable, and without it, the support of the Watertown community is truly remarkable, and without it, baseball in Watertown would look drastically different than what it does today. We as an association take great pride in providing our kids with a positive baseball experience each summer. Our participation numbers continue to grow, and this year we're excited that we have a record of over 220 kids participating in baseball ages 8 to 18 through the association. That level of involvement would not be possible without the generous support of all of you and then us hosting events like this. To the Hall of Fame Committee and the many volunteers to help organize this event, thank you for your hard work and your dedication in making this such a special event. And finally, maybe I'm going to have the shortest speech here tonight, but finally, to the inductees, congratulations. You have all earned your place in the Watertown Baseball Hall of Fame. You have all played a significant role in the success of Watertown baseball, and we look forward to celebrating those successes with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And now let's bring up our head coach and director of operations, Ryan Neale.
All right, thanks, Brent. And as you guys know, if you know me at all, I will not win that award for the shortest speech, and that's why I bring the Diet Coke up here with me. I'm going to start off with a couple of thank yous here. Just hold your applause till the end, and I'll give you the okay on that. But to Jenny and the crew here at 2nd Street for the fabulous meal and the hospitality of holding us here for the 3rd straight year, very much appreciate that. To Wells Fargo Advisors and 2nd Street Station as our title sponsors again this year. Kyle Poles, Travis Schmidt, Gus Steiger for helping me coach at this time of year. It's very hectic, a lot of things going on. I guess, Travis, you haven't stepped on the baseball field yet, but until tomorrow, but I'll throw your name in there anyway. So thanks to those guys to help us this time of year. It's just really, really hard. Colby Locker, who's probably still at the field getting that place ready for tomorrow night, has been putting a full day's work in, banners and mowing and making sure that place looks really, really nice for this event tomorrow night and that beautiful weather we're going to have. And I would be in extremely big trouble if I did not mention Nick Guthrie. He's not here, but he's my right-hand man. And I love the guy to death, and he works his butt off every day for this program. And if you didn't know, he's a graduate assistant at Wayne State College, so he is coaching college baseball right now. So that's where he's at, and I'm sure he'll is missing or not liking not being here. However, that was poorly worded. To Brent Nathaniel, he does an amazing job for everything. You're seeing Facebook posts, anything like that. That's him. I gave access to everything. Takes a lot off of my plate, and he does a tremendous job doing that. So thank you so much, Brent, for everything you do. Selection committee, every year we meet a couple of times a year to get this right, and looking forward, to continue to keep this moving forward. My committee that made this place as beautiful it is: Tracy Rabine, Maddie Ingen, Jamie Olson, Andrea Pitkin, Susie Stropp, Carrie Lohr, and Carrie Dilla. So thank you so much for doing all that. And yes, here you go. You can applause now. As you all know, it takes a lot of time and effort to do what I do. I love it, but it wouldn't be without my wife, Crystal, and my daughters, Paisley and Collins. I know my girls really, really like it, coming to the games. My wife maybe sometimes not, especially this time of year when everything's going. But thank you to Crystal and Collins and Paisley for everything. I really, really appreciate it. So they get their own special applause. This banquet is my baby. I love it. I put a lot of time and effort into this. And for those of you that have been here, you're going to get a little repeat. There's a lot of people that have never been here before, which is awesome. The why. We want to tell our story in Watertown. And this is another great example. This is another record-setting night at this year. We broke the record from last year. I think we had 208. Now we're over 225. 225 bodies here tonight to celebrate these awesome individuals and teams that have been a part of our journey here in Watertown. And we need to celebrate that and let that be known to why we continue to build our program. And it's just great to continue to start this. If you would, each year our committee meets to try to add people on. Yes, we have the liberty and to do whatever is right and add people, but it really, really helps if you nominate individuals. I'm going to look on this side of the room, okay? There's a lot of people that need to be nominated that have not, okay? And if you could, on the back of your program, there is a QR code. I made it easy now. Before, you'd have to email me and go out of your way to do it. No, just scan your QR code, fill out the simple Google form, and we'll take it from there. But yes, please nominate people. All it takes, one nomination, and it's done. And then that person or that team is on there for the rest of their life. It will not go away. But we get a lot of repeats. That's great. But we need more individuals. Okay? So as much as we can do there to continue to nominate. Gene Soupir. A couple of years ago, I stood up here and talked, and I made mention that I wanted to be like Jeff Planteen, act like him, and everything like that. And man, did Gary Young roast me for that, rightfully so. But the one thing I learned and got to know from working with or coaching, playing for Jeff, is we had a fabulous umpire. And when I got into coaching, that was one of the first things to make sure you and your low and away strike zone was at every single one of our games. The Watertown baseball program was better because of you, and thank you so much for your service for over 20 years. Rich, we've been through a lot the last couple of years, and all I can say is this: you are the face of Watertown baseball. You've done it, you've coached it, you ran it. We spent a lot of time on the phone with each other, way more times than we spent with our wife, that's for sure. I think they thought we were married for a long time. But you meant a lot to this program through your coaching, your playing, as a service as a board member. Thank you for everything you have done, and I got an amazing friend out of it. For the 97-98 teams, just a quick note, if you have not found me yet, or if I found you to sign these baseballs, I still need you to do so, because each year I have the Hall of Fame inductees sign one, and I put it in display, and that display is now going to go into our new locker room out at the stadium, and have it there for each year. So please get that from me, or see me before you leave. Jeff Planteen was inducted 2 years ago. This was prearranged at that time that he was going to talk about the team during his speech then. So when he talks tonight, it's going to be really short. So Dan Fjeldheim, go back. You still got time. Take notes of what he said so you can prepare yourself for tonight. Okay? Sound about right, Jeff? All right, perfect. Good. And to the teams, the best teams to ever come across Watertown baseball. 97, 98. If you look in your program, there's a ton of records. The only 2 teams that have won, finished runners-up, and it was amazing run that is hard to repeat, and it probably won't be. So congratulations to you guys. I'm so glad most of those teams or individuals are here tonight. Amazing attendance. Thank you so much for coming from all over, and it's a great opportunity to honor you guys here this evening. Now, to honor somebody like this, it's hard. You got individuals, they get their moment. Teams, it's a little difficult. We haven't done that. So at this time, I'd like to call up the 2025 Watertown Aero Team. Members of the 97-98 team, I'm going to ask you to come up here momentarily. When you do so, you are going to get your award. Can you hold this? Just hold that. Or open that. You're going to get an award. As I hand out plaques each year to all the inductees, but those are really expensive from Dustin Center, so you're not going to get a real plaque. You're going to get a photo instead, which you can put in a frame and call it good. But you're going to come out and you're going to meet tomorrow. Our team, instead of wearing our normal purple and gold, we're going to do a throwback day and we're going to wear red and blue. And each one of the members will have a new, I'll call it a teammate or a partner. And they will honor each one. So when the lineup card is announced, your name, not theirs, is going to be announced all day long. So at this time, I would like to call up Ryan Lawrence. Yep, go ahead. Take him off. Hayden Reese, where you at, man? There you go. Ricky Lewick. Thanks, bud. Who's got Ricky? Yep. Eric Knight. And making his first ever starting appearance tomorrow on the mound, Mr. Jim Jensen. You'll figure it out when his partner is eliminated. Jimmy, have you ever had a big game like this on the mound before? No. Chad Struckman. Chad Soupir. Chris Geringer. Dan Fjeldheim. Bill McElhaney. Rusty Remmers. Jason Adams. Mark Forbush. Wyatt Keever. Lucas Van Gilder. Grant Van Gilder. Oh. Chad Lohr. Assistant coach Rich Remmers.
And head coach of the 97-98 teams, Mr. Jeff Planteen. Oh, you found your poster. It's not like you're going to hang it or anything.
And also, Mr. Bryan Barger was assistant coach on that team. He's not here, but we do have stuff for him. And Travis is wearing his jersey today, so he's got that on there. As I wrap up here, thank you so much for coming again. Really appreciate it. Now, we are taking feedback each year. We know this gets a little lengthy at this time, so you're going to have a 15-minute break here. But in the meantime, 97-98 Teak guys, your partner is going to try to sell 50-50 tickets on behalf of you. Okay? The catch is, whichever player raises the most money in between, they get to keep it. They split it with you. Okay? So you both have skin in the game. This is going to go on because we'll come back. Brent will talk, Remmers and Gene will talk, and then we'll have another 15-minute break. It's just a simple $5 each. You'll grab the tickets from the player. They'll be selling them, and we'll give out 3, 4, 5, 6 winners, whatever that is, at the end of the night. And whoever has the most money, you guys are going to go home with some cash as well. Okay? So test your knowledge, and those boys will be going around selling 50-50 tickets here for 15 minutes. We're going to stay strict on that 15 minutes so we can get things rolling. So once again, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate everybody, and have a great evening.
1 minute! 1 minute! So make me get the cattle prods. Last person to their seat does not get any more cupcakes tonight. All right, everyone, we are going to begin once again. Thank you again for coming here tonight. And in honor of that, Bryan and Neale would like to give some special recognition tonight.
One thing that I forgot to say, I know I'm back up here, but real quick, it's important for me that all the past inductees to a Watertown Baseball Hall of Fame that are in attendance. So if you are, I'm going to call your name, if you would please stand up real quick. Class of 2021, Rusty Remmers, Gene Bierscheid, Ryan Van Gilder. Class of 2022, Pete Rylance, Mitch Johnson, Monty Wade standing in for Spencer Wade. Coach Wade, stand up, I'm going to call you out. 2023, Jeff Planteen, Blake Turback. 2024, Roger Merriam. And I'm just going to say the Horning family because there's a lot of Hornings here, so thank you for Bill Horning and supporting them. And everybody that's being inducted, if you can please, if this is an annual event, try to come back once every other year. I know a lot of you live out of town, but try to support this. It's a fun night, and we see that through all the inductees coming back year after year. Thank you.
Well, let's begin tonight. I have the honor of presenting Bryan Barger, who cannot be here tonight, so we will accept on his behalf. I do have a statement from Ryan that I'd like to read to you tonight. Ryan would like to thank the Watertown Baseball Association for election into the Baseball Hall of Fame class of 2025. He is sincerely humbled to be remembered alongside so many of the outstanding athletes and contributors associated with the Post-17 baseball program. I have many fond memories of Post-17 baseball, being teammates with amazing players like Ryan Van Gilder and Richie Remmers, riding in the old white Post-17 bus driven by Coach Mitch Johnson, having the opportunity to coach alongside Jeff Planteen, and year after year, seeing the great Gene Soupir behind the plates. These are just a few of the many fond memories of playing baseball in Watertown. So many good times and great friends, and I'm truly honored to have my time and efforts cemented into the Watertown Baseball Hall of Fame. Thank you, Bryan Barger. So I think I win the Beach Award tonight. Thank you. And now I'd like to bring up Rusty Remmers, who will be introducing Rich Remmers.
All right, well, good evening, everyone. It's my absolute honor to stand here tonight as we celebrate the induction of my brother, Rich, into the Watertown Baseball Hall of Fame. I've had the privilege of watching him grow, not only as a baseball player, but a coach, a leader, and a pillar of our community. Let's start with his playing days. Rich played for Post-17 in 1993 and 1994. In 1994, Rich was named to the All-State team after a season that included a .367 batting average, 72 hits, which ranks 9th all-time, 9 doubles, 72 runs scored, which is 5th all-time, and an incredible 60 stolen bases, which is second all-time. Those numbers alone tell the story of a player who is not just talented, but driven and dedicated to being one of the best on the field. He furthered his playing career for a year at Northern State University and then played countless seasons of amateur baseball. I was fortunate enough to play with him for many years in Castlewood, and those were some of my best baseball memories. With that being said, all those times I was on the mound, you didn't need to tell me from second base to throw strikes. I was trying. Just didn't quite have the control you did. With everything Rich did on the field, I believe his biggest accomplishments came later. He coached VFW and was assistant coach for the Legion teams in 1997 and 98. Rich helped guide the teams to back-to-back runner-up finishes in the state tournament. And while I was fortunate enough to be part of those teams, it's clear that his leadership went beyond strategy and skills. It was his ability to motivate and inspire players, myself included, that made all the difference. Rich's contributions didn't end with coaching. He was a big part in the growth of Watertown Baseball Association. serving for 9 years, including as president from 2021 to 2024. His leadership ensured that the WBA flourished, providing a foundation for the future generations of baseball players. And his wife, Teresa, was right there alongside him, spending countless hours helping out however needed, concession stands, which is this combined effort for the local baseball community. Rich was also a talented sports writer for the Public Opinion newspaper for more than 17 years. Covering baseball and so many other sports, his knowledge of the game and relationships with the athletes he covered gave him a unique perspective and allowed him to write some incredible stories and promote and preserve Watertown baseball. Rich's journey has been one of dedication to the game, to his teams, to his community, and to his family. His influence instead extends far beyond the numbers that he recorded on the field. He's left an incredible mark on everyone he's worked with, and this induction tonight is a well-deserved recognition of his hard work, his leadership and unwavering commitment to baseball and the people who love it. It's with great honor that I get to introduce you my brother, Rich Remmers.
First of all, thank my brother Rusty for doing that introduction. He does not like speaking in front of people, so I know that was hard for him. He texted me and asked me about can it be short, and I'm thinking, I said, yeah, short's fine. I'm thinking, the shorter the better. He's always used to stealing the spotlight from me anyway, so I'd rather him just be quick and be done. I'd also like to thank Ryan Neale. This is his brainchild for, he came up with this idea 4 or 5 years ago, probably 6 years ago, and put it to fruition 5 years ago. It's a great way to honor the tradition of Watertown baseball, and it's just a really cool thing that you came up with. Love the idea that everybody gets together and we can go over the history of baseball in Watertown. Also want to thank Crystal. I know how much time it takes away when you're coaching from family, so appreciate supporting your husband and letting him call me all those late nights. At this time, I want to recognize the board members, current board members. If you are a current board member, please stand up so we can applaud you, because I know how much time and effort it puts into this the association. It's a working board, one that I'm glad to be off of now. But if you're a current board member, please stand up. I want to congratulate all the other inductees, Gene, Brian, and the 2 teams. Well deserved for everyone here. It was special for me because I got to be part of the 2 teams here too, so pretty cool. I'm humbled to be in such a room filled with great former athletes, and also Scott Olson and Brian Bisker. I didn't get to attend last year's banquet because I had my kids' state tennis tournament, but my friend and former co-worker of 20 years, Roger Merriam, got inducted last year. I really wanted to hear his speech. I thought I might be able to catch the end of it tonight. Apparently he wrapped it up, though. I don't know. I also heard that during that speech, his cousin Ryan took a shot at me last year when he was introducing me about hitting a home run through the goalpost at the stadium off me. I had to wait a year to respond to him, but Ryan, I've given up way longer ones than that, so you're not that special. Gotta put my readers back on and read. I want to have Brianna Beebe stand up from First Premier Bank. If you've noticed these shirts around, I want to thank her for that. This room has never looked so good. On to my family. So I got to first of all thank my parents. When I was growing up, we played, like, everybody came to our house in the neighborhood. We called it a hot box back then. People call it pickle, I don't know, whatever it is. You have 2 bases, but we had a dirt path in our front yard from all the neighborhood kids playing hot box. We're talking 4 or 5 years old. And all I know is that if my kid, I barely let my kids walk on our lawn without yelling at them. So kudos to you two, you're better parents than I was, but my lawn looks a lot better. Both my parents were really active in the Baseball Parents Association back in the day. I got to thank my dad. He's the one that kind of taught me early on baseball. He coached me all the way up through, we didn't have the whole youth travel things back then, but when we played junior senior league, he coached me there and taught me how to play baseball the old-fashioned hard-nosed way. So thank you for that. My mom. My mom's been through a lot with cancer, so I'm just grateful for everything that you're able to do. No, all right. She chased around the 3 boys and my sister playing softball. I don't know how they did it with 4 kids. They were also both on the Parents Association board back then. At one point, from 1990 to 1998, there was a Remmers boy playing on the Legion team every year that year, or every one of those years from 90 to 98. Ryan was 92, 92, me 93, 94, and Rusty, of course, 4 years. So. All 3 of us went on to play college baseball. It did work out well for a couple of us. My mom was also named the South Dakota Amateur Baseball Woman of the Year in 1997 for all she had done for Watertown baseball, so that's pretty cool. She also made scrapbooks for all of our athletic stuff that was in the newspaper back when, they put stuff in the newspaper out. So it was funny that Rusty's scrapbook was about 4 times the size as Ryan and mine. But we're all good because Rusty's baby book, he doesn't exist. To my siblings, my older brother Ryan, very similar for me with Rusty. Ryan coached me on the Legion team. He was assistant under Mitch Johnson along with Wade Van Gilder. They taught me how to play hard-nosed baseball, and you can ask Ryan about how that works for old school ball. When he was at Northern, when he were pitching, he actually threw at a guy between innings. That's where I learned it from. My sister, who couldn't make it tonight, I just appreciate her chasing around all of us with my parents to all of our games. As far as Rusty, best 2 years of my baseball life was coaching that 97-98 team. Was so super proud of him when he became the first and only South Dakota American Legion Player of the Year from Watertown in 1998. So not as happy when he broke all my records, but I did hold the stolen base record for 4 years with 60. He shattered it 4 years later. But I do say if I could have hit 435, I would have stolen 90 bases. To my family, my kids, Jenny, Justin, and Jordan. I've had the pleasure of coaching both of my boys in baseball when they were little, and I also got to coach my daughter in fast pitch softball. You learn quickly that coaching girls is different than coaching boys, but there's nothing better than coaching your kids in a sporting event. So I appreciate a couple of you listening to me at times. As for my beautiful wife, Teresa, baseball has always been a big part of our lives. She tugged around kids forever when I was playing amateur baseball. A lot of late nights on her own with the kids at home, waiting for me to come home from Ship's Inn. We actually got engaged on the Castlewood baseball field during a game. You'll have to ask her the story about that, but she won a rigged raffle ticket that had a William Airby baseball on it. So you can see how much baseball is played a part in our lives. We also went to a Braves game in Atlanta on our honeymoon. Stayed with Bryan Barger, who was stationed in Atlanta at the time. So baseball has always been a big part. So she shouldn't have been surprised when I volunteered to run concession stands when I was coming to the board. She ran the concession stand for 6 years, which involved a lot of fights, not gonna lie. I'm really, really glad. We've been married for almost 23 years. This is the first time in over 43 years that nobody is playing baseball in our household. So we are looking forward to a lot of time on the golf course, a lot of time maybe out at some home games, and a lot of time but not fighting. I started playing baseball in Watertown with T-ball. Was really the best player on any team I played. I mean, I had two guys from the Legion team, Ryan Van Gilder and Mike Ramundi, get drafted. So it was going to be hard to be the best player on the team. Maybe peaked at junior league when Chad Bain was my catcher, and we used to dominate with Norwest Bank. Back when I could throw hard from 40 feet. You're not going to have any success if you don't have great coaches along the way. John Flory, Ron Heiser were both my coaches in VFW. Mitch Johnson, Wade Van Gilder, and my older brother at Legion. I will say I learned how to hate losing when Ron Heiser was my coach. You all know Ron, you know how he is, but we'd get done with baseball practice and Ron would come home to our house and play basketball in the driveway. And keep in mind, Rusty is like 10 at this time. I'm 14. And Ron's throwing elbows. He's, boxing out the 10-year-old to the ground. So, I mean, you learn to hate losing, and I got that from Ron. I wanted to win in the region tournament that year for VFW. I wanted to win. So did Ron. He gave me the ball. On a Friday, I threw a 2-hit complete game against Brookings. Ron was kind enough to give me 1 day off. And I ended up pitching the second game of the championship game on Sunday through the first 6 innings and another win over Brookings. So we had no pitch counts back then. On a totally unrelated note, I had shoulder surgery later on in life. And by the way, Chad Bain caught both of those games in the region tournament. So once he stopped playing, or once he never caught me, I sucked. So. On the Legion, where's Mitch at? Just want to say, Mitch was a great Legion coach for me. I didn't play much my '93 season as a junior. I think maybe got 6 games or 7. We had other guys ahead of us, Tim Stillman, better players ahead of me. My senior year, he trusted me to play every single game. I played all 60 games. And it's hard to sit behind people when you want to play, but looking back, it was the right choice. I mean, I was probably 5'8", 120 pounds my junior year before I bulked up to 5'10", 125 my senior year. So I appreciate everything you did, Mitch. After Legion, I was able to play amateurs in Watertown and helped Roger run the amateur team for 4 years before we all moved to Castlewood and played with Dan Howard for many, many years. Got to get Dan's name mentioned in here because that was a lot of fun playing with my brother and a lot of Watertown guys actually in Castlewood for years. I will say, during the 97-98 team, those seasons, when I was coaching the helping coach Legion team, also doing the stadium job with Bryan Barger, which meant we had to get the field ready for every single game that was played out there. That was pre any foundation field, so that was where all the games were played. Brian and I used to throw on the lights at the stadium at midnight. We'd play home run derby. So I'd throw 2 buckets of balls to Barger. We'd walk out behind the home run fence in left field, grab all his balls. He'd throw 2 buckets to me. We'd walk out to deep shortstop, grab all my balls. It just proved to me that I was a better pitcher than him. Batting practice pitcher anyway. And that continued at Northern when I gave up 3 of the longest home runs you'll ever see against SCSU and Brookings. So again, Ryan Miriam, that was nothing. All right, enough about me. I want to talk about this year's Legion team for a little bit. I got to see a lot of these guys play last year when Justin was on the team. We had great teams in 97, 98, but this year's team is loaded with talent. There's a record number of guys going on to play college baseball from this year's squad, so it's going to be really exciting. They have the ability to win the first state title for Watertown in forever. What I would say is take a page out of the 97, 98 teams. Team comes first. Accept your roles and be team players. Play for each other. Be happy when your team wins, even if you didn't have a great day at the plate. Don't be afraid of failing. Baseball is a game of failure. It's a weird game. If you bat 3 for 10, you're a really, really good player. That means you failed 7 out of 10 times. If you hit 400, you're an exceptional player. If you hit 500, you're Heath Rylance. But if you guys play for each other and accept the challenges, you guys can do something really special for Watertown baseball and all of us who have played here before. So let's get it done this year, boys. The last item I want to touch base on is I'm putting my board president hat back on here for a little bit. I want to talk, there's been a lot of uncertainty with facilities in Watertown, baseball facilities. We've been trying to get a lot done over many years. I think the last 4 years we've been trying to get a plan in place. When we do finally get a plan in place, and I think it's hopefully getting closer to that point, let's open up your checkbooks and make this happen. Baseball needs to have facility upgrades in town here. I'm talking if you can donate, that includes the World Series boards that Ryan sends out, the Super Bowl boards, or any text messages, because he has 8 billion phone numbers in his phone right now that he will text and ask for money. So with that said, when we get a plan in place, let's be ready to make a facility that's Watertown's worth having. So that is it for me. Thank you, and enjoy the rest of the night.
And now I'd like to welcome up Nathan Soupir, who will be introducing Gene Soupir.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome here. Just want to say I see a lot of familiar faces from a long time ago, and it's great to see everybody. Reminds me of the good old days. Tonight we gather here to celebrate and honor an outstanding group of individuals. Congratulations to everybody, all the nominations. And the next nominee we're introducing tonight to the Watertown Baseball Hall of Fame is my dad, Gene Soupir. When I read the joint write-up for my dad, it made me extremely proud. Mitch, Jeff, Roger, Brad, they did a spectacular job highlighting his contributions as an umpire and how players, coaches, and fans perceived him on and off the field. For the better part of 20 years, Gene's spent his extra time umpiring for Watertown Post 17. And I wanted to highlight a few of the other accomplishments during his lifetime, how he spent enjoying the game of baseball on the field. When he was in high school, Gene spent 4 years as a starter in high school for the Redwood Falls Cardinals, where he played left field. In between varsity baseball, he filled his time playing as much fast-pitch softball as he could. Right out of high school, he was drafted into the U.S. Army, spent 4 years in the military during the Vietnam War. When he returned home, he came back, and right back on the field he went. He signed a 3-year contract with the semi-pro team Brewers as a second baseman. He continued to play fast-pitch and slow-pitch softball for various teams until he reached about the age of 55. Towards the end of his softball career, when he turned to umpiring, which kept him active and able to continue his love for the game. Being on the baseball field was his true passion in life. So with that, I think Will Ferrell said it best in old school. You're my boy, Blue. So without further delay, we congratulate and are excited to hear from the next Hall of Fame inductee, my dad, Gene Soupir.
Well, I'm Gene Soupir, and I don't have as many pages as a lot of people. Okay? So this is going to be short and sweet. The first gentleman that I got introduced to, and I met, I should say, he owned a sporting goods store on the east side of Watertown, past Hy-Vee just a little bit, because that's where I worked for quite a few years. But his name was Gary Young. And Gary, I went in the store and he, what are you looking for? I saw him looking for a glove or something. You know, he was working. So I found the glove. He says, we started talking about some other stuff. He said, would you be interested in umpiring? I said, umpiring like fast pitch softball or slow pitch or what? And I said, yeah, I can do probably both in my spare time. And I also had another part-time job, but that was an easy one. But eventually I asked him about the big lights across the back way of the softball diamond. He said that's where they play Legion baseball and town team baseball. And I said, well, how do I get a hold of whoever is in charge? And he said Freddie Opelmeyer from Clark was in charge of hiring or getting baseball umpires. So I said, well, they got their meetings usually in either February or March. So I went to the March meeting and I took the test, passed the test. He said, when did you start playing or umpiring? I said, well, when is the first game that Watertown plays? He says, well, right now, Post 17 is out of town for a couple of days, but the Red Sox are playing. I says, well, I can do those games. Okay, he says, you have to, I can't remember who the coach was, I'm sorry, but I went down and met the coach, and he says, can you do both games? I said, sure can. He said, can you do them behind the plate? And I said, yeah, I can do them both behind the plate. I says, who's going to take the field? Oh, we'll find someone up here in the stands. I said, oh, that's fine with me. I said, I can cover whatever. So we went ahead and did a Wednesday night game and a Thursday night game with the Red Sox, because like I say, 12 17 is still out of town until Friday and Saturday. So then I umped both games there. And again, Watertown was really short on umpiring. And so I got my gear, I went down to the stadium. The first gentleman I met was Mr. Rylance back in 1991, and Heath was playing. I got another good friend over here that was playing second base for Post 17, and that Ryan. And what a player he was. He had such a good personality. You couldn't find a better player than Ryan. He was great. And out in center field was Tim Silverman. So the only three kids I knew on that team were those three guys. So it was it was quite an experience to umpire those guys, because they were good ball players. So then I got to meet Mr. Johnson, Mitch, and then between games, he asked me, he says, would you like to be a head umpire coach? Or get the coaches ready, or umpires ready, or something. And I said, yeah. I said, I can do that. So I got a few names. I started calling some guys, and I said, hey, we got a game, only post 17 players. And so that's where I really got my start, was back then with Mitch Johnson. And we did from there all the way up to Jeff Planteen. And then I umped with Jeff for quite a few years. And that was awesome. He was a good coach, just like Mitch was, really good. He had good ball players. And one thing, Jeff was out on a weekend up in Minneapolis with his post 17 team, and they went all the way up to the final game on Sunday. And I don't remember what happened, if we won or lost or whatever, but he had a ball game on Tuesday, a doubleheader with like Pierre or Mitchell or somebody like that. And he came back, and we got beat pretty bad the first game. And but what happened was they got he ran out of pitchers, so he was using some other young guys that were just relievers. And in the second game wasn't as good as the first game. That's just it only lasted 5 innings. I'm sorry, Jeff. And he walked behind me in the second inning. He said, hey, Gene. I said, yeah, Jeff. He says, how can I get kicked out of this ball game? I said, Jeff, I said, right. I said, the only way you're going to get kicked out is if I leave first, you're following me next. So that was one of my highlights of that career with Jeff. But now I got to go back to Mitch Johnson. And another one of my highlight days was when Watertown got to play in the regions up in Aberdeen. And that's when we had Monty, or Spencer Wade, and we had some big, tall left-hander. There were some few other guys on there that were really good ball players, good hitters, good fielders. And all of a sudden I got a telephone call, and it was from Fred from up in Aberdeen, and wanted me to come up and umpire up there. And so I went up, I said, sure, I'll come up and umpire. And eventually we got to Sunday, and Watertown was still playing. Okay, so Freddie called me over to the concession stand, because that's where he was working. And he says, we're going to have a championship game, and how would you like to umpire behind home plate? I says, all these other guys got a whole lot more experience behind home plate than I do. He says, no, they don't. He said, you are just as good as they are, if not better. He said, I watched you play before. What? So he said, you're going to umpire behind home plate. So, okay, that sounded good. They took their practice. Watertown took their practice. Who comes to the mound? Here comes that big, tall left-hander, Jason Adams. And he pitched one of the best games that you ever could have won an umpire. He threw more strikes. I think he threw about 80% strikes and about 20% balls. He threw 9 innings. He threw over 125 to 130 pitches, Mitch. And I mean, he had a curveball that they couldn't hit. And I ain't kidding. It was awesome. Jason, that was the greatest game I ever owned. So you were the Thank you very much. And I also have a few other coaches in between, all the way up to Bryan, Neale. I got with him for 2 years, like 2010, 2011, I believe. And I mean, all the coaches were awesome. I never heard a bad word of any of them except for Jeff Planteen. I want to thank all the parents were the greatest from the time I first started all the way to the end. And there's another young kid that were, some of my catchers were Jim Jensen, then we had Chad Bainan, and I had a few other catchers. And whenever these guys came and they were catching, we had a little signal together. They'd go ahead and tap my back leg over at one side or the other way, and I knew what that meant. They knew what that meant. You missed the pitch. That's all. It was on the black line, but I still called it a ball. And you know how it is. You all know that today's baseball, if you ever watch those umpires, I think just about any man or lady in this room can umpire better than anybody that's playing something out there today. Again, I would like to thank Post 17, Bryan, and all the baseball players, parents especially. When we had long weekends, it got hot behind home plate, and all the parents would water, pop, whatever your Kool-Aid, Gatorade, whatever. They came and made sure that we had enough to drink. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. And I had lots of fun behind home plate with all these great coaches. Thank you.
We've got one more to go, but before we do that, we're going to take a 15-minute break, chance to grab something to drink, maybe see if you're still leading on an auction, so we'll be back here in 15 minutes. Thank you once again for coming out tonight, and don't forget the boys playing tomorrow, Hall of Fame game. Soupir, Lincoln, noon and 2 o'clock up at the stadium. If you cannot make it, we'll have it on Post 17 TV on YouTube tomorrow again. Noon and 2 o'clock up at the stadium. Ladies and gentlemen, opinions. Would like to welcome our next inductees, the 1997 and 1998 teams, and to do so, please welcome up here Jeff Planteen.
All right, before we start, we're going to give a drawing for $100,000. I knew that would get that table's attention over there in Ingles and those guys. And you guys did not win. Before I turn this over to Dan Fjeldheim to talk about the 97, 98 teams, there's definitely some thank yous that I want to address. I'd like, first of all, to thank and foremost the 97 and 98 players that played. And I wasn't going to do this, but could you please stand? It's definitely quite a crew. I could go around individually and just have a great conversation, not only as a player, but oddly enough, over the years, how we've stayed in touch, and as people, and as persons, and as dads, and it's just amazing to hear the stories. Like going into Chad Struckman and buying a battery, right? That's great. I'm moving actually to the west, and as you're cleaning stuff out, I ran across this bat that had all the guys' signature on it. It's crazy what you keep and what has meaning to you. And I was going to bring it in, but someone said I might crack someone with it, so I left it at the vehicle. But
you didn't hit anything with your swamp.
I looked around, didn't see Gary Young here tonight, but I forgot we got Roger Marion. Before I move on from the players, I just want to say this, that honestly, I am going to turn it over to Dan. He's going to do the 20 to 25 minutes, because we do have two teams, so he gets 2 time slots. But I want to thank all 3 inductees that were here tonight. They had a direct impact on our teams. Rich Remmers and Bryan Barger were probably the best assistants you could ever ask for, as long as I could stop getting them to hit BP and actually coach a little bit. Gene, you know what you're going to get, my man. I love you. Your passion tonight was amazing, and thank you. Thank you. Good. The parents of 97 and 98, all the work, and of course all the free unsolicited coaching that you did. I certainly appreciate that. I guess it's free speech around here. There's a few coaches that are here tonight. Mitch Johnson and Coach Monty Waite, I just want to thank them for the groundwork they did, and certainly appreciate all the knowledge and life lessons they taught me as well and continue to. Lastly, Ryan, man, what a friend he was and is. The officiating that we've done over the years, being in your wedding, and all that you do for Watertown baseball and the passion that you do. It's pretty incredible what you've done. So thanks very much. So when Dan talks about the 97 and 98 teams, just please keep something in mind. And it's probably from one of my favorite players in quotes by Hank Aaron. When the time comes, only 3 things matter. And you guys that are going to compete this year, that are playing Legion, keep this in mind. Be prepared, seize the moment, and have the courage to take your best swing. These are the qualities that the 97 and 98 teams had. They competed and they did not want to lose. But along the way, they had a lot of fun. Probably more than I want to know. I heard backdrops, and I'm still not believing what I heard. So, matter of fact, there was a boy band called the Hanson Brothers. If you recall, they had a song called Mba. There is a pitcher from Huron that could have passed as the lead singer's twin. And the guys in the dugout would say, hey, if Mbop's pitching, you better not strike out against him. Well, I'll let you figure out who that was. Please welcome Dan Fjeldheim and his walk-up song, Mba. Dan before I turn the mic over. Boom Bop was popping the mid at about 56 miles an hour. And Dan did go down swinging, but the hanging fastball got him. Dan's going to talk about the players and the teams, and I don't think he's going to mention himself. Well, he could, but I'll mention a few things. Dan was 8-1 and 6-1 in 97-98 on the mound. I still can't figure out how he went 14-2 in 2 years, and he cracked the mid at 75, but he could rip a football around. His batting average was 370 and 395. You know, I thought he should play baseball in college, and went on to be a pretty good quarterback at SDSU. So, thanks, Dan, and you know, we are competing because they are going to watch the virtual one and see who compared their teams to us. So, there you go.
Thank you. One suggestion next year, now that the Remmers are done talking, can we get a little taller podium so I can actually see my notes here?
Mike, away from your mouth.
There's the peanut galleries here. All right, here we go. Want to start by a quick congratulations to the inductees here. Richie and Barger obviously coached for us. Richie, congratulations on being the second best Remmers in the Hall of Fame. Barger's not here to defend himself, but he's the one guy that couldn't drive the bus because he couldn't spell CDL in order to get his license. So we just had to have Richie and Planteen drive the bus those couple of years. To Mr. Soupir, all the effort to you. I think talking to Gene earlier tonight, he said there was some years where he did 80 games umpiring. And, you know, we think playing 60, 65, whatever we played was a lot, but Gene's effort and everything. So just to all the inductees tonight, congratulations. You guys well deserved for all of this. I'm going to talk a little bit about each team, but as Coach Planteen alluded to, we would not be where we're at without the efforts of Coach Mitch Johnson. Getting the team to third, fourth place about 3-4 years in a row. Coach led the foundation and the winning program and the mentality. Was just about taking the next step, and it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out he was a way better coach than Planteen was. Coach Mitch Johnson, Coach Ryan Waite that helps out you guys. Way to go. Congratulations. You know, I also want to say a quick kind of blanket overview to all the parents of all the players. Back in 97, 98, and maybe even today, they also were the concession stand workers, the ticket takers, the 50-50 raffle people, and somehow, Mom, pardon my French, but they kept that piece of shit bus working somehow that we had to drive along. And, you know, being a club sport, no real funding like that. A lot of it came out of their own pockets. So I think a lot of us, probably the first time, you know, we ever played catch was probably with our dad or one of our siblings or maybe even our mom. So to all the parents that made all the sacrifices for everything that they did, not for these 2 years, but for all the years combined, I think they also deserve a round of applause and a pat on the back as well. And it had to be pretty scary for them as parents. You know, we would go for a road trip and we'd hop in that bus, and Planteen was a whopping, 26 years old probably at the time. You know, and Richie, you know, as evident tonight, his voice hadn't dropped yet. And so, I mean, those were the bus drivers we had. They were just a little bit older than us kids. My parents probably, we're going to drive those kids to Pier and back in that thing, huh? But somehow we managed, and I will say that those bus rides were a hell of a lot of fun. If you remember the guys, one of the seats was turned around, so we actually had to sit and talk to each other. We didn't have an iPhone or an iPad, so we had the cards out. We played card games, and like I said, we actually had to talk to each other. And so somehow that bus got us back and forth and around, and only broke down about 4 times a year, so that's pretty good. I just want to take a little bit and recognize each of the players on both of the teams. This won't take forever, but there are 20 guys that I think it's important that each one is recognized and did make a contribution for the team. So when we start with the 97 team, when we start with the seniors, you got to start at the top with the big lefty, Jason Adams, right? Jason, 6'6". Jason had one of the best pitching years in post-17 history, a record 105 innings and 134 strikeouts. But Jason also worked his butt off to get in the everyday lineup. I don't think he'd mind me telling you this, but Jason wasn't exactly a slugger leading up to his senior year. But he worked hard in the everyday lineup and was one of the solid guys, and again, one of the greatest pitchers, as Mr. Gene mentioned, in the history of post-17. So, Jason Adams, way to go, bud. Next on that senior list, Jimmy Jensen. Jimmy was our everyday catcher. Jimmy broke the single season home run record that year, had 13 home runs. And how the lineup was is I batted behind Jimmy, and Jimmy had his home run trots were so slow. By the time the ball would hit the fence, I could go to Gas and Goodies and get a Slurpee and still not miss my at-bat. Jimmy wanted to let everybody know he was trotting around the bases. But a great hitter for us, and behind the plate, Jimmy had a rocket of an arm, shut down the other team's running game, was a hell of a catcher, and was one of the, like I said, one of the greatest power hitters in post-17 history. So, Jimmy Jensen. Lucas Van Gilder. Lucas came over from Clark that year and was a huge piece of the team. Lucas ended up being our primary second baseman, hit over 400 that year, 7 home runs, and then broke a record for most RBIs in a season. And Lucas was just a great competitor and a real good teammate. And, you know, now that I think about it, if Adams didn't like somebody on the other team, they were getting one right in the ass. And then if you look at Jason and Jimmy and then Lucas, well, no wonder nobody charged the mound, because those three would probably take care of things on their own. Because we all know Rusty wasn't going to beat anybody up. So. But again, let's give it up for Lucas, one of the great players of the team. Next is Billy McElhaney. Bill had a kind of a tough birthday where he wasn't able to play. He was actually in our grade and school-wise, but wasn't able to play after his senior year. But Billy was a heart and soul of our team, vocal leader, which sometimes got him in trouble. But he was our two-hole hitter, everyday outfielder, number 3 in the rotation. Actually started most games on the team that year, hit almost 400, and known Billy a long time, and was very passionate about the game, very passionate about baseball in general, and was a hell of a leader of that team as well. So we'll talk about Billy here a little more, but Billy McElhaney. A couple other guys that weren't here tonight, but still big contributors. Jim Madsen. Jim Bob ended up being our everyday shortstop. Very solid in the field, solid hitter. We'll talk a little bit about a rally that Jim Bob capped. Quite frankly, probably had the largest or biggest clutch hit in the history of the program. So Jim Bob, I talked to him earlier today. He said he's sorry he can't be here, but he would love seeing all the guys. And let's give it up for Jim Bob real quick. And then the last senior on the 97 team was Mike Erlinson. Earl couldn't be here tonight. He's actually coaching down in Howard Wood and coaching track down there. But Earl liked to keep things loose, liked to keep things light. Team jokester, funny guy, but you know what? Everybody was Earl's friend. You know, he's an everyday outfielder for us, could run like a deer, and just was a solid friend, solid teammate. So Mike Erlinson, everybody. You know, so with those 6 seniors leading the way, you know, coming off a very successful 96 season, which Coach Johnson coached us to a 3rd-year place, we thought we were going to be pretty good. And it didn't start off that way. We got off to about a 5-5 start. And, you know, I'm sure Planteen we lost to somebody we shouldn't have. I'm sure Planteen was giving us an uninspiring ass chewing in the dugout after the game. True. But But I remember Billy kind of tripped up and said, guys, we're not losing a game the rest of this year. And of course, some of us kind of rolled our eyes and we were all kind of pissed off that we had lost, but that kind of changed the mentality of the team. Instead of thinking we were just going to show up and get some wins, we had to understand that we had to go work for them, and we did that moving forward. I don't remember any super long, ridiculous winning streaks, but every game we'd have 2-3 doubleheaders, and we'd win 5 of 6 games or 7 of 8 games, and just kind of carried that all on the way through the season. And we got into the playoffs and into the region championship game. And Brookings was one of our rivals and a team we battled all year. Nail biters down to the wire, all sorts of stuff. So we had got to the region championship game, and both of the teams had qualified, and with where we were at in the pitching rotation, it was my turn to go. Well, we'd already made it, so if we lost, it wasn't that big a deal, so they let me pitch. But the thing about Planteen had a very specific when it came to pitch counts. If your arm was attached to your shoulder, you had to get your ass back out there. And, I can toot my horn, I'm pretty sure I'm the only pitcher in the history of the program to give up 11 earned runs and still win a region championship game. If you take the over-under at 213.5 on how many pitches I threw, take the over. You make a lot of money. I just hope I can raise my arm to brush my teeth in a couple of years. But that region championship game was a great game. I think Rusty hosed the guy to play in the 9th inning to preserve the win. So we had gotten to where we needed to be, and we're getting ready for the 97 state tournament. And with how they did it back then, the Class B champions still got to play in the A tournament. So we drew Howard, and we didn't think much of Howard. They had one pitcher that had thrown his arm off in the state tournament, so we said, let's go for this. We're here to win this thing. And not that Billy wasn't a capable pitcher, but we had Jason and we had Rusty, 2 awesome pitchers. We said, well, let's try and save them. Well, how'd that work out? Well, so far it wasn't so. And Billy pitched a fine game. We just didn't hit. We ended up losing a 1-run ball game, 6-5, 5-4, something like that. And then, so we're at day 2, and surely you would throw one of your studs, right? Said, Dan, think you can beat Yankton? Said, I think so. So I went out and threw, and we did. We matched that game. I think we beat them like 13-3 or something. So here we are, day 3. Okay. Think we're going to throw one of our best 2 guys? Nope. It was time to play clear. JJ, appreciate you being here so we can talk on your behalf. But we let Chad Struckman go that game, and Chad was a very capable pitcher, and we got through that game. So now we're on the 4th day of the tournament, and we had Jason and Rusty left, and Jason went against Sioux Falls East, who was, in my opinion, as good as we were, probably the top 2 teams, and we smoked them. I think we 15 run them. We beat them like 16-1, something like that. And so they were already in the championship, but we still had another game to win to go. And so we had to play Brookings on Sunday morning before a chance to play them again in the championship, Sioux Falls East, that is. So, we thought we were in pretty good shape. We had Rusty on the mound, and Brookings was a heck of a team, had a lot of college athletes on their team, college baseball players. But the game really wasn't going our way, and we got to the top of the 9th. We were down, nobody on base and 2 outs. We were down 8-5, and Jimmy Jensen was up. And I remember being on deck just thinking, man, we just got to somehow keep moving the line along. Well, that really wasn't Jimmy's philosophy. Jimmy was going to try and hit one 430 feet. And to this day, why Brookings threw you a fastball with 2 strikes would never get it, but they did, and Jimmy hit it 430 feet. So now we're down 4-6, and I remember coming up just do something. And I hit one off the knuckles that probably landed 6 feet over the second baseman's head. But hey, I remember getting to first base and looking at Barger, and we both kind of shrugged our shoulders and said, well, who knows? But then that started the rally one after another. Struckman, base hit. Mike Erlinson, double, scores me. Now we're only down one. So we got second and third, and we got Jim Madsen up. Well, Jimmy had gotten hit in the face in the region tournament. I mean, he was black and blue, his nose, his eyes. He looked like Brian Urlacher up at the plate. He had one of those big old face masks. I mean, he like you'd maybe see in a softball game, but like times 5. I mean, he had a big old thing on. And I think the one bit of coaching that Planteen did this year was I talked to Jimmy today, and he said, you know, Planteen came over by the dugout and said, you know, I believe in you, and I think you can do this. And he did. And he ripped a base hit between the hole and third and short. And what was a 8-5 deficit, we were now up 9-8. And we ended up holding them off and going to the state championship game that year. But I think that rally epitomized the heart and soul of that team, never giving up. I think I did a Google thing. Brookings had a 99.2% chance to win that game when Jimmy was up with 2 outs and nobody on. And somehow we found a way to get it done. So going into the championship game, it was against Sioux Falls East. And yeah, we beat them a couple days ago, but they were back with a vengeance. They had their ace ready to go. And you know, we had gone through our rotation, and it was Billy's turn back up in the lineup, and Billy pitched his ass off. He pitched the game to where it was a state championship caliber winning game. You know, it was a close game back and forth. They kind of got a little blooper hit to go up 5-4, but we were up in the top of the 9th, and we weren't going to lay down. And we had some guys on first and third, and we had Lucas Van Gilder up with 1 out, and I thought, we're going to do this. And Lucas hit an absolute rocket up the middle that to this day, I don't know how their pitcher caught the ball off of 1 hop, but he did. And Lucas wasn't even out of the box, and he was already thrown into second base. It was hit so hard. And a 1-6-3 double play ended the game, ended the season, ended the comeback, and was kind of all of a sudden kind of hit pretty heavy. But that was a championship caliber team. They showed championship heart, showed championship effort. I'm glad to be a part of it. You look at the 97 team, set a club record with 48 wins that year. Obviously just inches short of the state title, but everybody involved there, from coaching staff to players, 1 round of applause from 1997, second place state champion. So going on to the 98 team, that had a little bit of different feel on it, right? We had 6 seniors that I mentioned earlier that we had to replace. There was a few of us that had played from the year before, but a little different feel going into it. You know, one of my favorite memories from that year was Arlo Remmers was the PA guy. And Arlo, you were old then. And how you got up and down that ladder in the press box, that's beyond me. That deserves a little. But Arlo would get up in the press box, and you know, after we got out of the first inning, he'd say, "Do 17." He'd say, "Remmers, Struckman, and Fjeldheim." And every time I heard that, I knew that we were going to score some runs. So I guess now's the part where I have to say something nice about Rusty. But Rusty was on base probably 60% of the time. I don't think that's an exaggeration. And when he got on first, obviously he was stealing second and maybe third. American Legion Player of the Year, you know, hit well over 400. Think about that. 60 games, he scored 89 runs and stole 85 bases. Pretty good. 62 RBIs, led the team in RBIs. And if he wouldn't have stolen so many frickin' bases, I'd have had more RBIs. We'd always score by the time I'd get up. And I'm like, oh, thanks, cool. I guess I got to get a home run to knock somebody in. But also was fantastic on the mound. 11-3, 130 strikeouts. That was the 3rd most ever in a season. And not even to mention his defensive prowess out there. And I don't know if you guys remember, that center field had nooks and crannies and ups and downs. It has not changed. No, well, I thought we had these all-world groundskeepers that we were talking about earlier. No, just the infield. But no, Rusty, just a phenomenal year, phenomenal teammate, phenomenal leader. And so then after Rusty would be on base, Chad Struckman would be up. And Chad probably had the best back control of any player I've ever seen. Think about this, especially in today's world. Struck walked 4 times as much as he struck out. Struck walked 50 times and struck out 12 over 60 games. That's incredible. That is amazing. Not to mention he also hit 380 and like I said, was just fantastic with the bat, but he was just as good in the field. His glove was slicker than snot. He ended up moving to second base, and the amount of double plays that him and Grant Van Gilder turned that year, I don't know what the record is, but I bet no one else was even close. It was nice to pitch and knew you just needed to get a ground ball to get out of an inning because Struck and Grant, or whoever was at third base, was going to turn it. So also had very good pitching depth. Struck through a lot of games for us this year. So Chad Struckman, everybody. Grant Van Gilder. Grant came over with Lucas the year before and played quite a bit in '97, but he had some shoes to fill as we needed an everyday shortstop. And Grant did that. Batted over 300 for us, and like I mentioned, him and Struck in the field were fantastic. Tough kid, tough competitor. Obviously, nobody wanted to wrestle him because they'd get in a pretzel hold and start crying for their mom. State champ wrestler, but Grant Van Gilder was a hell of a teammate and a hell of a friend. So Grant, way to go, buddy. A couple other guys that were seniors on the team: Chad Soupir, Chris Gehringer, Aaron Reinschmidt. These guys had paid their dues and had played a little bit in previous years, but may not have played as much as they would have liked to, but they're all great teammates. None of them bitched about the amount of playing time they got or didn't get, and contributed when they would. Swear still hit over 300 that year, and the opportunities he got. He also kept an immaculate book in the dugout, and I don't make light of this because he took it serious. But it also helped if you were pitching. You could go up to Chad and say, "Hey, Swerbo, who's up next inning?" Well, 5, 6, and 7, and on 1 and 2, he grounded out to short. I mean, he had it down. I think he invented pitch charts and stuff like that. So, making those contributions as a team like that. I remember one time he went in the game, and I said, "Here, Chad, I'll take the book." And he looked at me and he said, "Don't you my book up. This thing is perfect." Yes, sir. So those were the seniors on the team, but I think the reason that team, like we said, we had a bunch of shoes to fill. We also had a junior class of 3 really solid players. Wyatt Keever ended up being 9-2 on the mound, hit over 300, was a solid player for us, very good on the mound. Eric Knight had big shoes to fill, right? He had to fill in and step as a catcher for Jimmy Jensen. All Eric did that year was hit 350 and was a wall behind the plate. All his digging stuff out of the wild pitches in the dirt was fantastic behind the plate. And Chad Lower had a hell of a bat, kept him in the lineup, and he was versatile enough to play outfield one spot, first base the next day, wherever we needed him. Also pitched very well at 8-3 on the mound, so those juniors that stepped up were a huge part of his success, and they deserve a round of applause too. Then we had some sophomores that had an opportunity to step up. First one that comes to mind is Mark Forbush. Mark ended up being one of our better pitchers on the team, had a big potential, threw in a huge game for us in the state tournament. But he ended up being 6-2 on the mound that year and made some huge contributions there. We had Ryan Lawrence. Bud Lawrence ended up being our primary third baseman and also gave Eric Knight a break behind the plate every now and then. Hit over 320 on the year. Another sophomore that stepped up and did really big things and did a really nice job for us. Tommy Brewster. Tommy came in and was one of our main relief pitchers. He led our team in saves. He had 5 saves throughout the year. Had a winning record on the mound. So Tommy was another contributor. And then Ricky Lillick. And I'll admit, when Ricky showed up at practice the first day, I said, we've already got a 5'9", 135-pounder in the outfield. We don't need another one, do we? But it didn't take Ricky long to show us what he had. And I believe Ricky was batting 4th about the second week into the season. Ricky actually led our team in average that year, hit almost 420 on the year as a sophomore, and was solid in the outfield. And down the road, his senior year, Ricky hit 470 his senior season. I think Riley's and maybe Mikulski are about the only others to ever hit more in a single season. So for all those sophomores that stepped up and did a great job of kind of maturing faster than they thought they probably needed to, they all deserve a round of applause too. So as that season progressed, maybe it wasn't as dramatic as some of the things from the '97 season, but we got to the postseason tournament, state tournament in '98, and we took a little different path. I think Planteen didn't want to stress it last year, so we actually started Rusty the first game, and we won that game. But I do remember when we pulled into the stadium, we had the early game the first day. And when I saw Billy Sunbird parked in the parking lot in Rapid City, I thought, wow. And him and Lambo had come out and were there to watch us play. And I think they might have been out there because Sturgis was going on at the same time too. I don't know. But, I knew that was going to be a special tournament. Like I said, we started out 2-0, and then we had a showdown with Rapid City, both 2-0 teams, and it was time to get Mark Forbush the ball, and Mark threw a gem. He did have a little trouble in the first inning. They had the bases loaded and 2 outs, and they had their catcher, who was a stud, absolutely hit a moonshot to left center field, and I'm starting to go back up and cut off and whatever. And I'll be damned if Rusty didn't find a way to run that thing down and catch that ball on the warning track and keep it at a 0-0 game. And from then on, we scored a few runs here and there and ended up beating them 5-2, which put us back in the state championship game for that year. We had one game in between there against Spearfish that we lost in a shootout, but we got to the state championship game. We had to play Rapid again, and I wish I had a really, really good explanation, but we got our ass kicked. I think, I'm not even sure the game went the full 9 innings. It was just a game where it was frustrating between some balls falling in. We kicked a few balls around that we normally didn't. And it was kind of a frustrating end of the season. But just for that whole '98 team, the way that we had some of those younger guys step up, some of us older guys were able to lead and everything. That was a hell of a fun season, and one more quick round of applause for everybody on that 98 year. Just a couple of things to finish up. Here's a scary stat. The '97 team was 48-16. That's exactly a 750 winning percentage, right? Won 3 out of every 4 games. The team batting average was 353. In '98, we were 45-15. That is exactly a 750 winning percentage. The team batting average was 352. So if you think how close those two teams were together, different ways of going about it, different players or whatnot, maybe it was coaching. No, I'm not going to go there. But on behalf of all the players, all the guys that I got to talk to leading up to hopefully have the facts straight. I don't know if all that was to the letter of the law, but it's not like you can go back and check tweets to figure out if I was wrong or not. So we're going with it. But I appreciate getting to speak on behalf of all my teammates. Ryan, what you've done building this organization to where it is. I know it's not just you, but your effort has been greatly noticed and appreciated by former players. And to everybody here, go post 17 arrows. Good night. God bless. Let's have some fun. Thank you.
Great job, Dan. Just two things, and it's for all the players in here and the former players. We had two people, and if I missed someone, I apologize. I love all the players that played for me, that were on the team. Restate that. But Ricky Lewick came here from Las Vegas, right, Ricky? And Lucas Van Gilder came here from Chicago. That's a hell of an effort. So thank you.